The office at noon holds its breath in a quiet way, the white light resting evenly on the desk and the mirror hanging near the filing cabinet. Your sleeve brushes the edge of the table as you lean closer, and for a moment you see your own face reflected back, not sharply, just enough to notice the faint crease between your brows and the way the fabric at your wrist touches your skin. The room is not loud, not empty either, only steady, as if time itself has slowed to the pace of a blinking cursor somewhere on a screen out of view. You smooth the collar of your shirt and feel the soft drag of cloth against your neck, then look at the mirror again without quite meaning to, wondering how a morning filled with small completed tasks can still leave a thin space inside that no checklist seems to reach. Nothing dramatic sits there, only a quiet distance, like a chair pulled slightly away from the table though no one remembers moving it. Outside the window, light stays the same, patient and neutral, touching the edge of the sink in the corner where a towel hangs, slightly damp from earlier. Your fingers rest on the fabric for a second, noticing its texture, before your hand lowers and the overhead light is turned off. At noon the office settles into a softer rhythm, and the mirror near the sink catches the edge of the light without asking for attention. You step away from the desk for a moment, fingertips grazing the folded towel, feeling the weave of fabric press lightly into your skin as if it were reminding you of something simple and ordinary. The fluorescent light hums above, steady and unremarkable, and in that steady brightness your reflection looks neither tired nor energized, just present in the middle of a day that has already given you several small victories that no one else will notice. There were emails answered, files aligned, a quiet nod exchanged with someone passing by the hallway, each task completed with the quiet efficiency that comes from long practice. And yet, standing there with the cool porcelain beneath your palm and the mirror returning your gaze, you sense that the progress of the morning has moved forward in neat lines while something inside you has remained slightly behind, as if it preferred to walk at a slower pace. The room smells faintly of paper and cleaning solution, nothing sharp, only the background scent of a shared space where many hands have touched the same surfaces. You adjust the cuff of your sleeve again, feeling the fabric brush against your wrist, and for a second the smallness of that sensation feels more real than the long list of completed tasks sitting invisibly in your mind. Outside the closed door, a chair rolls back, footsteps pass, then fade into the corridor, and the ordinary sounds of midday continue without pause. You look once more into the mirror, not searching for flaws, not searching for answers, just noticing the familiar outline of your face under even light. It is a face that has learned to keep moving. It is also a face that sometimes waits for something softer than accomplishment. The computer screen behind you still glows on the desk, open tabs lined up in quiet rows, proof of movement and efficiency. You return to your chair and sit down slowly, palms resting on the edge of the table, feeling the slight warmth left behind by your own body. There is a message notification blinking in the corner of the screen, polite and insistent, but for a moment you do not open it. Instead, you let your hand hover over the mouse, aware of the small space between intention and action. The office light reflects faintly on the monitor, and your own reflection overlaps with charts and text, as if both versions of you exist at once, the one progressing forward and the one simply sitting here. A memory of the previous night comes quietly, the dim bedroom light casting soft shadows on the wall while the house had already fallen into stillness. You remember standing in front of the bathroom mirror then, the air cooler, the towel slightly damp, the fabric brushing your shoulder as you leaned closer. The reflection at night had looked different under the warm lamp, edges softened, eyes less alert. Progress had not mattered in that moment. Only breathing had. Only standing there had. Back in the office, the clock on the wall marks another minute without ceremony. The day continues its steady pace, and you reach for the small stack of documents waiting beside the keyboard. Paper slides against paper with a gentle sound, your fingers aligning the edges with habitual care. The mirror is still there in the corner of your vision, reflecting light, reflecting presence, not asking for anything more than to show what is already here. You lower your gaze, touch the smooth surface of the desk once more, and let your shoulders ease back slightly before turning off the overhead light. The afternoon light remains steady, almost unchanged, as if noon has decided to linger a little longer over the desks and low cabinets. Your chair shifts softly on the floor when you lean back, and the mirror by the sink catches a small movement of your shoulder, reflecting it without emphasis. The office quiet deepens in that particular way it does after lunch, when conversations thin out and screens become the main source of motion. You scroll through a document slowly, eyes moving line by line, and the fabric of your sleeve grazes your forearm each time your hand slides forward. It is a small sensation, almost nothing, yet it anchors you more firmly than the colored indicators marking completed tasks at the top of the page. There is progress, visible and measurable. A checklist shortened. A reply sent. A file renamed and stored in its proper folder. The system acknowledges each action with a faint change on the screen, a subtle shift from bold to gray, from pending to done. But the air in the room feels the same as it did an hour ago, neutral and evenly lit, holding everything without celebration. You glance at the mirror again, not out of habit now, but because it stands there as a quiet witness to your presence. Your reflection looks composed, almost efficient, the kind of person who knows how to move through a day without leaving loose ends. Still, somewhere between one task and the next, there is a narrow space that does not quite fill. It is not dissatisfaction. Not disappointment. Just a thin gap, like the space between two sheets of paper that have not been pressed flat together. Your fingers rest against the edge of the desk, feeling the faint texture of its surface, and you let your shoulders settle for a moment before continuing. The soft brush of fabric against your wrist returns as you adjust your position, and the simplicity of that contact feels more grounded than the abstract idea of moving forward. In the hallway, a door closes gently, and footsteps pass by, unhurried. The sound travels through the walls and fades without echo. You imagine someone else standing briefly before another mirror, straightening their collar, checking their reflection under the same pale light. Everyone here advances in their own way, numbers shifting, projects nearing completion, calendars filling with marks that indicate movement. Yet the room itself does not change. It remains a quiet container for effort. Your hand drifts toward the sink, turning the tap just enough for a thin stream of water to run. The sound is soft and continuous, barely louder than the hum of the lights, and you watch it slide over your fingers before shutting it off again. The towel hangs where it always hangs, slightly creased, ready to absorb what remains. When you press it against your hands, the texture is firm and familiar, the fabric brushing your skin in a way that feels steady and real. As the afternoon leans closer to evening, the brightness outside the window shifts almost imperceptibly, though the office light remains constant. You sit back down, letting the chair support your weight fully for a breath. There are still messages to answer, still small markers of progress waiting to be created. You move the mouse, close one more window, align another column of text, and feel the day inch forward in its predictable way. Then, without ceremony, you reach up and turn off the overhead light. By late afternoon, the office has grown quieter in a way that feels almost deliberate, as if the building itself understands that energy cannot remain at its peak forever. The light from the window begins to soften, though the overhead lamps still cast their steady brightness across the desks and cabinets. You stand again near the small sink, drawn there without urgency, and the mirror greets you with the same neutral reflection it has offered all day. Under this consistent light, your face looks familiar and undemanding, neither asking for more nor insisting that anything is missing. The towel hangs where you left it, edges slightly uneven, fabric carrying the faint memory of earlier touch. When you press it lightly against your hands, the texture feels grounding, a quiet reminder of something tangible amid the steady flow of tasks and updates. The day has moved forward, undeniably. Documents are completed. Messages are archived. Meetings have passed. Yet standing here, there is no dramatic shift inside you, no sudden arrival at a place called enough. There is only this small space between reflection and breath. The office at this hour feels suspended between effort and departure. A distant drawer slides shut. Someone coughs softly in another room. The hallway carries the muted sound of shoes against the floor, then returns to stillness. You notice how your shoulders rise and fall almost automatically, how your hands rest on the edge of the sink without gripping it. In the mirror, your posture looks steady, practiced, the posture of someone who knows how to keep moving even when the pace inside does not quite match the pace outside. You think briefly of the night ahead, of the dim bedroom light waiting at home, where shadows soften the edges of everything. Late at night, reflections look different. They hold fewer expectations. Under a single lamp, the mirror in the bathroom does not measure progress or completion, it simply reflects a face that has come through another day. That memory rests quietly in you now, not as longing, not as escape, but as a reminder that there are spaces where movement slows without needing explanation. The light in the office shifts again, almost imperceptibly, a gentle hint that the day is preparing to fold itself closed. You return to your desk and sit down, feeling the fabric of your clothes settle against your skin. The soft brush of cloth at your wrist accompanies the small click of the mouse as you close another window. The list is shorter now. The screen looks calmer. Still, there is no sudden rush of relief. Only the steady awareness that progress and peace do not always arrive at the same time. You glance once more at the mirror across the room. It reflects the desk, the chair, the faint outline of your figure against neutral light. Nothing is dramatic. Nothing is unresolved in any visible way. The air conditioner hums gently overhead, and you let your eyes rest for a moment before standing. The building feels ready to exhale. You reach toward the switch near the door, pause briefly, and turn off the overhead light. Evening approaches without announcement, and the office takes on a quieter shade of itself, as if the air has thinned slightly between the desks. The last of the daylight lingers near the window, softer now, while the mirror by the sink reflects a dimmer version of the room you have occupied all day. You stand there again, not because something is wrong, but because the simple act of standing still feels different from completing another task. The towel rests where it has been, its fabric faintly creased, and when you lift it to dry your hands, the texture presses gently into your skin. That small contact feels more immediate than the progress bar that reached 100% an hour ago. There is a quiet honesty in reflections at this hour. Under fading light, your face looks less defined by productivity and more by presence. The lines near your eyes do not signal failure or success, they simply show that the day has been lived. The mirror does not argue with the list of accomplishments on your screen, nor does it praise them. It only returns what stands before it. You find yourself holding that gaze a second longer than usual, noticing how neutral it is. There is no accusation there. No applause either. Behind you, the computer hums softly, screen still lit with open documents and muted colors. A notification icon rests in the corner, patient and small. You walk back to the desk and sit down slowly, feeling the chair accept your weight with a faint sound. The fabric at your elbow brushes against the armrest, and the quiet friction anchors you to the moment more firmly than any summary of completed work. You close another file, then another, watching the desktop clear itself in orderly fashion. The movement feels tidy. It does not feel transformative. Somewhere down the hallway, a door shuts with a gentle click. Footsteps pass and then fade. The building seems to be folding in on itself, room by room, light by light. You imagine the bedroom at home, the dim lamp casting a warmer glow than this office ever could, the bathroom mirror reflecting a softer outline when night fully arrives. That space will not ask how much was done. It will not measure anything. It will simply exist, waiting. Back at your desk, The glow of the screen now stands out against the darker edges of the room. Your reflection appears faintly on its surface, layered over rows of text and numbers, as if both images are trying to occupy the same space. You move the cursor to the corner and close the final window. The desktop becomes bare, almost peaceful in its simplicity. There is nothing left to click for now. You rest your hands on the table, palms down, feeling the solid surface beneath them. The air conditioner continues its low hum, steady and unchanging. In the mirror across the room, your figure is smaller in the dimmer light, less defined but still unmistakably there. The day has moved forward in clear steps. Inside, movement has been quieter, slower, less visible. You stand, take one last look at the room that has held your effort, and reach toward the switch. The light goes out, the building grows quieter as evening settles fully outside, and the office now feels like a space between two worlds rather than a place of effort. The window reflects more of the room than the sky, and the mirror by the sink holds a softer, darker version of your outline. You pause there again, not to check anything specific, only to stand in front of a surface that does not measure what has been accomplished. The towel hangs loosely from its hook, fabric slightly cool now, and when you press it lightly against your hands, the texture feels steady, almost grounding in its simplicity. There were goals met today. Lines crossed off. Messages answered with care. Yet the quiet that fills the room now does not feel earned or withheld, it simply arrives as the light fades. Your reflection looks less defined under the dimmer glow, edges blending gently into shadow. There is something almost relieving about that softness, as if clarity of output does not require clarity of feeling. The mirror does not insist that progress and peace should align. It only reflects a figure standing still for a brief moment before moving again. The computer screen has been shut down, leaving the desk darker than it has been all day. In the absence of its glow, the room reveals subtler sounds, the faint hum of the air conditioner, the distant echo of an elevator somewhere below, the building shifting into nighttime mode. You walk back to your chair and sit, allowing yourself one last pause before leaving. The fabric of your clothes brushes quietly against your skin as you lean back, a small, tactile reminder that your body has carried you through the day without complaint. Thoughts move more slowly now. Not heavy. Just unhurried. You remember how late at night, under the bedroom light, the bathroom mirror offers a different kind of reflection, warmer, less precise, less concerned with the shape of the day. There, the air carries a faint trace of soap, and the towel feels softer against your face. The house is usually quiet at that hour, each room dimly lit or already dark, as if the world has agreed to lower its voice. In that space, nothing is measured. Not productivity. Not milestones. Only the simple fact of being there remains. Here, in the office, the quiet is more neutral but no less real. The desk stands cleared. The chair waits. The mirror still reflects the faint outline of you against a room that has given all it was meant to give for this day. Progress has been real, tangible, documented. And yet, peace has arrived in its own way, not because of what was completed, but because the light has shifted and the pace has slowed. You stand and gather your things, fingers brushing the strap of your bag before letting it rest against your side. The hallway beyond the door is nearly empty now, footsteps rare and spaced apart. You take one last glance at the mirror, acknowledging the presence it returns without judgment. Then you reach toward the wall beside the doorway, pause for the briefest second, and turn off the light. Late at night, the bedroom light is softer than any light the office ever held, a dim yellow glow that rests quietly on the edge of the bed and the nearby wall. The house has already settled into thin silence, each room closed off in its own gentle darkness. You step into the bathroom and pause in front of the mirror, the air cooler here, carrying the faint scent of soap that lingers from earlier. The towel hangs beside the sink, its fabric familiar against your fingers when you lift it to dry your hands. The touch is unhurried now, slower than it was at noon, slower than it was in the fading office light. The mirror reflects a different outline under this lamp. Edges soften. Shadows gather lightly beneath your eyes, not as signs of strain, but as traces of a day that moved from morning to evening without asking for permission. You lean slightly closer, not examining, only noticing. In this light, progress does not stand beside you. There are no documents, no quiet notifications waiting to be opened, no measured lines of accomplishment. There is simply a face in a quiet room, breathing in a space that asks for nothing more. The floor tile is cool beneath your feet, and the stillness of the house feels steady rather than empty. Somewhere in the distance, a pipe shifts softly in the walls, then returns to silence. You run a thin stream of water over your hands, watching it slide across your skin before turning the tap off again. The towel absorbs what remains, fabric pressing gently against your palms. The sensation is small, almost insignificant, yet it anchors you here more firmly than any milestone reached earlier in the day. In the mirror, your shoulders look less rigid than they did under office light. The pace has slowed without effort. There is no checklist in this room. No visible proof of advancement. Only the simple fact of having arrived at night, of standing upright in a quiet house while the world outside continues in its own distant rhythm. Through the window, faraway traffic hums faintly, softened by walls and darkness, reminding you that movement never truly stops, even when you do. You think briefly of the office mirror, bright and neutral, reflecting you among desks and screens. That reflection was steady. This one is gentler. Both are true. Both held the same person, moving through different light. Progress happened. Tasks were completed. But here, under this dim lamp, nothing needs to be added or removed. The day has already taken its shape. The bedroom beyond the bathroom waits in shadow, blankets slightly rumpled, pillow indented from the night before. You step back from the mirror, letting your gaze rest on your reflection one last moment without searching for anything inside it. The towel falls back against its hook with a soft sound. Your hand reaches toward the switch near the doorway, fingers brushing the wall in the dark. The dim yellow light fades, and you turn off the light. The house is quiet now, the kind of quiet that does not ask for anything to be improved. The air holds a faint trace of soap and fabric, and in the darkness the mirror no longer reflects a face, only the outline of the room it has watched all day. You move slowly toward the bed, feeling the soft brush of your sleeve against your wrist, aware of the simple weight of your body settling into familiar space. Outside, distant traffic passes like a low, steady breath, then thins again into silence. Nothing more is added to this day. Nothing is taken away. The progress that happened remains where it belongs, in files closed and lights switched off, while something quieter remains here with you. It is not a conclusion. Not an achievement. Only the steady presence of having moved through the hours and arrived at this dim edge of night. The blanket lifts slightly as you lie down. The room holds its shape around you without commentary. A final pause rests in the air, gentle and unmeasured, before everything fades a little deeper into dark.